ask questions throughout the session. Welcome to the inaugural Google Educator Group High Plains Hangout On Air. I'm very thrilled to introduce a fantastic speaker for our inaugural event. But first up, real quick, my name is Tanya Dusay, and I'm a professor at the University of Wyoming in Instructional Technology. I am one of the leaders of the Google Educator Group, and with me today is Jillian Balow, the new Superintendent of Instruction for Wyoming. She is going to take us on a fantastic journey on where we are headed in the state of Wyoming for the next couple of years, and some important things that will be of interest to educators, whether you're in Wyoming or other states as well. So real quick, a quick background about Jillian. She was elected the Wyoming State Superintendent of Public Instruction in 2014. She supervises public education in Wyoming and is a member of many boards and commissions, including state lands, loan investment, University of Wyoming trustees, school facilities, community colleges, and the State Board of Education. Jillian is a fifth-generation Wyoming native. She taught for more than a decade in Wyoming elementary and secondary classrooms and found her niche in literacy education and the professional development of others. So with that, I turn this over to Jillian.
Thank you, Tanya. Fantastic journey. Might be an overstatement, but I will do my very best. I guess I would like to just kind of test the waters a little bit. I know that we've got K-12 teachers, perhaps some higher ed faculty, some administrators on this program. Could you just quickly chat and let me know where you're from and what your role is? Can you do that, Tanya?
We should be able to. We are experiencing a little bit of technical difficulty, so please bear with us. This is a live event. Our microphone is now muted.
The whole time?
No.
Okay. I think it was the whole time.
Yeah, I think it was.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Tanya. That was a great introduction, and I think that fantastic journey might be a little bit of an overstatement, but I will do my best. So as I understand, we have K-12 teachers, we have some administrators, and we have higher ed faculty. I would like to test the waters right away with this chat and or with this hangout and ask you to just chat where you're from and what your role is. And as those come up, I'll just kind of keep rolling. First of all, what an honor it is to be here. And I'm going to jump right into it and give you just a little bit of an update on what we've been doing since November 5th, which was Election Day. We jumped right in with a transition team made up of folks from around the state. We sent out an online survey, put boots on the ground, asked lots of questions. Some of you on this call may have received those questions, and we got a lot of great feedback. We had 532 responses that were sent back to us and hundreds of conversations with educators and citizens across the state. And we asked them some questions about the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats in Wyoming education. We had a lot of really great information and went into a strategic planning session in December and really set a vision for a vision in Wyoming education. We wanted to make sure we had an accurate lay of the land and that on day one we were ready to come into office. During that time we also put together a great leadership team. Some of you may know members of our leadership team, and I'd just like to quickly introduce them now, even though they're not with me today. We have Chief of Staff Dickie Shaner, who is with me throughout the campaign. We have Chief Policy Officer Brent Young. He was the Assistant Curriculum Director, or Director of Instruction, excuse me, in Laramie County 1. Brent Bacon was the Special Ed Director in Laramie County 2. And we have Diane Bailey, who is our Chief Financial Officer and an internal promotion. So with that, I'd like to turn it over just a little bit if you have any questions about the transition and about our first days in office. Okay. Well, as those questions across, and I do invite you to ask those questions. You know, I'm going to kind of keep rolling here and talk a little bit about our first days in office. So I was sworn into office on January 5th, and we came right in and hit the ground running. And what I would like to say is that it was perfectly smooth, and there were no bumps or glitches, but the reality is that it was not perfectly smooth, and it was rather messy, but made much easier by the great staff at WDE. Let me give you just a little bit of a lay of the land in terms of how we're staffed and what our responsibilities are. We have some main functions at the Department of Education that really kind of boil down to this. We support school districts in meeting their federal and state requirements. We provide technical assistance to school districts across the state. We generally supervise public education, which includes outreach to education stakeholders across the state as well. At this time, most of you on this call are peripherally familiar with the work that we do at the Department of Education, but I would also like to say that we have a long way to go. We have a number of vacancies at the Department of Education, and we're going to be working very hard to meet the needs of the school districts as well as provide excellent customer service over the next 4 years, and focus on really moving Wyoming education forward in a number of ways. As many of you know, because I think you are on WyoEd Chat on Sunday nights, many of you are, I'm really interested in technology in the classroom, and I've seen it really evolve from technology enhancing education to technology really being a core of the education experience. And that's something that really excites me going forward. I had an opportunity to go to a conference, or an unconference as we called it, in October. And we got to hear from educators across the state and hear about all of the great things that you're doing in technology. It was great to come into the Department of Education and see that we have a small but very, very robust technology and education team and comms team, just really chomping at the bit to move this forward, move technology in the classroom forward, move technology in the Department of Education forward. So from the get-go, one of my visions has been, you know, we have these little things called superintendent's memos that we disseminate about once a week, and they may or they may not get into the hands of the people who need them. We're not really sure because we're not able to track that. But it's really sort of this archaic and main means of communication from the Department of Education. So immediately coming into office, I began having conversations with our technology and our comms team and talked really at length about how can we make communication to stakeholders, not just educators, but parents and business partners and folks across the state, across the nation, across the globe, more engaged in education, so that it's not incumbent on everybody to find out information, find out what's going on at WDE, but rather they have many ways to access information. And so we're really working on that, and we have, you know, what I thought were pipe dreams that are really close to reality. So I think that you can look forward to having enhanced communication from the WDE and enhanced support for what you're doing in the classroom. So it looks like we have a couple of, okay, I'm going to click on a couple of, great. I'm sorry, I'm working on this. Do I click here?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
No, that's okay.
no, okay.
Okay, go back there, and then.
Are we on full screen maybe? Hang on, how about Jillian? If I click on that. We just got lost in here.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Got it back?
So.
I'm clicking. Bear with me. We're queuing up a couple of questions.
Answer.
Okay. We have a question. Could you please discuss your plans for early education? I know that's a passion of yours. Absolutely, and thanks for the question, Lori. That is a passion of mine, and kind of by accident. I've been working in early education for about the last 5 years, and it has grown to be a passion of mine. And here's why. All of the research points to early education and making sure that our youngest learners get a great start and are ready for kindergarten, whatever that is. There we go. Making sure that our youngest learners get a great start is the very best way to keep that achievement gap closed from a very early age. So I am certainly interested in fulfilling what the research says in Wyoming by making sure that our kids, all kids, have access to quality early education and a quality early education learning environment. What that means is that, not that we're going to make mandatory age of going into school 4 or 3, but we are going to empower communities across the state to meet the needs of their youngest learners. Because youngest learners often need more than just an academic education. They need a more well-rounded education in terms, a more well-rounded experience in terms of making sure that they have their health checkings, that they've had opportunities to have exceptional needs met, and that they've had an opportunity to practice school, either with mom and dad, with caregiver, or maybe in a more formal learning environment. So you'll see the WDE really honing early education as an interest and really collaborating with communities across the state to increase access to quality early learning experiences. Okay, James, it's good to hear from you. James's question is, and are you queuing this up? Is that right? Okay. James's question is, thanks for the WDE WyoEd chat shout out, or thanks for the WyoEd chat shout out. What role do you see social media playing in your leadership plans? So thanks, James, and we're really working on this. I am getting my feet under me right now. I am still trying to tweet a little bit personally, and I know Carrie Dunlap is tweeting on behalf of the Wyoming Department of Education, and what we need to do is really figure out a way to marry those two Twitter accounts or Twitter, I guess, voices, we'll call them. And I think that we're getting closer, but Carrie and I are still getting to know each other and still figuring out how to do that. But certainly, WyoEd chats are in my future on Sunday nights. And I have to tell you that while this is great to be in this wonderful room with the flags behind me and have this chat today, I kind of enjoy laying in bed with my son and reading to him and then logging on to a WyoEd chat on Sunday nights in my pajamas and slippers where no one can see me, but I get to have the same conversations. So I'll still be taking advantage of that because it's a great Sunday night activity. Legislative session makes it a little challenging right now. So thank you, Summer, for the nice comment. Ms. Balow, I do not have a question, but wanted to say that I'm glad to see this offered to Hangout on Air, allowing us to provide you with feedback. Thank you, and you are most welcome. And I think that goes both ways. I appreciate this opportunity. I appreciate you logging on to this Hangout on a Friday afternoon. I'm sure you have better things to do than chat with the State Superintendent. So I appreciate your sense of curiosity and your willingness to log on after a long week. Andrea Burrows writes, secondary science education faculty at UW, and asks, can you provide an overview, a big picture of your vision or direction for schools in Wyoming? What should be emphasized in science classes and why? So let's kind of hone in on what's happening right now, and this week in our legislature, of course, and last week as well. We are working toward the repeal of a footnote that had a great deal of emphasis by our media and by a number of educators across our state over the last year. It basically forbade our State Board of Education from considering the considering science standards. And this has kind of become what we call the Next Generation Science Standards footnote, and now the Next Generation Science Standards Bill. And it has been an interesting year for the State Board of Education and the Department of Education, in the sense that we haven't really been able to discuss science standards a whole lot. Going forward, and once that is repealed, we will be able to discuss science standards, including but not limited to the Next Generation Science Standards. What I am most interested in is having high, rigorous standards for Wyoming students in science and in all subjects to make sure that our students are ready for that next phase in life, whether that's the next grade, higher education in Wyoming, the workforce, or higher education across our nation or across our globe. That may be partially the Next Generation Science Standards, but I also know that being a Wyoming graduate and a Wyoming native, that we live on top of a science classroom. And I would really like to see us look into our state and ask ourselves, what do Wyoming students need to know and be able to do when it comes to articulating and understanding Wyoming science, whether that's our natural resources, our agricultural industry, or our unique geology. And I would like to see those topics intertwined or included in our science standards so that Wyoming graduates are ready for that next step in life with a solid understanding of our state. In terms of a general vision for Wyoming, I have to be honest that right now we're really working on building a foundation at the Department of Education. We are running at about 70% capacity with respect to our staff, and we want to make sure that we have full capacity built in our staff at WDE so that we can provide a great resource to the state of Wyoming. We will be working on making sure that we are staffed with the right people doing the right work. You heard me talk earlier about dipping right into school districts. We did that very intentionally with our leadership tool, or our leadership tier, because we know that education leaders will help us to rebuild institutional and historical knowledge that's been lost over the last 4 years. We'll continue to recruit and retain the best and brightest. We have some of the best and brightest already at WDE. And so once we have that solid foundation built, then we will start to work toward a vision of making sure that we're able to support school districts in meeting your innovative goals and providing the support that you need. You heard me talk a little bit about early education, which is very important to me. I also have a passion for career and technical education, and for seeing that really have a spotlight over the next several years. I'm interested in partnering with higher education to a greater degree to make sure that that transition not only into kindergarten, but that transition from 12th grade to the next step is also has a focus, and that are successful in their next steps. All right, so that I don't leave anyone out, I want to keep going. And the next question is from Ann Brucker from Billings, Montana. Welcome. And she writes, I think it's wonderful what you're doing here. I'm not sure what the logistics are of making it happen, but Montana was able to make Montana EdChat available for OPI credit. Is that an option for Wyoming? I don't have an answer for that, but I'll tell you what. We will forward that because I think that that is fantastic, and that's actually something that I've thought about on Sunday nights, and I'm going to be really candid here and say that I've been out of the classroom for almost 9 years, and I miss the classroom once in a while. Toward the beginning of the year, I miss it, you know, at certain different times, but I really miss it when I'm on those Sunday night WYO Ed chats, because I want to go back to class on Monday morning and really implement some of the things I've learned or that we've discussed as a group of colleagues on WYO Ed chat. And so, you know, I guess my point there is that I learned so much from colleagues on WYO Ed chat, and I'm honored to call them colleagues. And so I really want to look into that and pursue that, and I think that's, thanks, Anne. Next question is from Andy Meyer. I'm a PE and health teacher in Laramie County at South High School. Go Bison, by the way. And I'm wondering if we are going to get funding back for SCAS, CCSSO Health Education Assessment System. So to my knowledge, that funding hasn't gone away. We just haven't tapped into it for several years. What we have found so far is that CCSSO has been an incredible help to the Department of Education in helping us as a leadership team really get out in front of of national education topics. I was part of the early childhood and the literacy SCASs when I was at the Department of Education last, and I know how vitally helpful they are in helping us to achieve our innovative goals and ideas at the local level. So Andy, thank you so much for bringing that to our attention, and I will check into that and have someone get back with you on what the current status is on where we are with the SCAS, the Health Education Assessment System SCAS. Thank you. Next question is from Joshua Jerome. If possible, if your administration can look at data gathering processes that are being used in the state, there are a number of reports that are being gathered right now that repeat information, and I truly feel some efficiency could be created for districts. Joshua, great question, and I am happy to report that on Monday morning we omitted a data collection that we had in the state, and that is hopefully the first of many. I have been part, while I was at the Department of Family Services, have been part of a movement to reduce rules, data collections, and regulations by 30%. And we were successful in doing that. In fact, we reduced some of our information gathering and our onerous rules and regs by 50% in some of our programs. I would like to carry that right over to the Department of Education, and I haven't said this out loud, I haven't put a number to it, but I would really like to see us reduce in the next few years, reduce our data gathering, our data collections by, I'm reluctant to put a percentage to it. I have it in my brain, and as opposed to, or as in light of what we were able to accomplish at the Department of Family Services, I'm guessing you can figure out what that number is, but we'd like to reduce that number. Thank you for that question. Okay, Bertine, and I do, at the risk of mispronouncing your last name, I'm going to leave it at Bertine. Math teacher at CCHS in Gillette. Go Camels, I'm a grad. I just want to say that this is a great opportunity for all to get involved in Wyoming education and share ideas to make the WDE stronger. Thank you, Bertine. I could not agree more. And going back to Andy's question from Montana, could we make this, could we get some PTSB credit? I think that that would help really underscore and validate the value of these Hangouts and of other opportunities that we have to really gather together as colleagues and talk about education. This is a general overview of Department of Education and perhaps my vision going forward, but I know that in the future Dr. Doucet and Carrie and team will really work to collate the sessions to be more focused on different topics in education and hopefully more worthy of your time than hearing me blab my first days in office. So Joshua, again, if possible, can your administration look at having one student information database SIS and instructional management system IMS and learning management system LMS. This would greatly help the state of Wyoming. So sometimes I tell my children when they're playing video games or doing things online, I have no idea what you're talking about, and I'm going to have to say that right now. I have no idea what systems you're talking about, but there are people at the Department of Education who do, and I look forward to learning more about SIS, IMS, and LMS, and getting back to you on what I'm sure this important question implies. All right, I am actually going to hand that question off to Kerry Dunlap because clearly he does know what these mean and he'll be able to answer that question.
I don't want to take it.
Yeah.
You're okay. I don't want to take up a lot of Superintendent Balow's time on this topic. I do want to offer this to those of you who are asking the data collection questions and the MIS questions that are out there. So I'm the Communications Director here at the Department of Education, and my email address is Carey, C-A-R-Y, Dunlap, D-U-N-L-A-P, at wyo.gov. And I can answer all your specific questions in regard to those subjects. Generally, right now, I can tell you that our efforts regarding data collection are, yes, we feel your pain. Absolutely. We want to simplify and streamline the data collection process. I might even say that more than that, we want to consolidate the process. I think there's some redundancy that's going on with some of the data collections. So we want to identify where those redundancies are. We want to consolidate those efforts, and we just want to make it as simple as possible. I've been on both sides of that equation, so what it's like to provide the data, and I certainly know what it's like to receive and then sort through and mine through the data itself. So I feel your pain, and it's definitely a priority for the superintendent. We want to make that as easy as we can for you. So again, if you have more specific questions, please feel free to email me, call me, reach out to me any way you'd like, and I'll do everything I can to give you good answers on those things. So I hope that helps. Turn it back over to Superintendent Balow.
Thanks, Carrie. Okay, next question from Bertine again. What is your plan to stabilize the statewide assessment in terms of standardized testing, as it seems to be changing all the time? And that's a great question. So let me kind of back up to a year of campaigning and say that I often heard folks across the state say, you know, my kids are being overassessed, or there were 20 days of assessment last year in my daughter's third grade classroom, or what have you. And I put my teacher hat on, and I didn't say this, but I thought, well, I hope that all children are being assessed every day, because that's one mark of great instruction. We are constantly assessing every moment of every day, and we're adjusting our instruction to both meet individual students' needs as well as our class needs to make sure that our kids are successful. And then we move up and we have these summative evaluations that show that, you know, kind of like when we check a cake in the oven to see if it's done, and we poke a toothpick in one or two places to see if our kids are learning what they need to do at different milestones. And then we have the district assessments that give a little bit bigger picture of the health of our students on a district level. Where we seem to get jammed up is the state assessments, particularly the standardized assessments, which, you know, maybe by calculation take up 20% of the assessments or less that we give to our kids. But that's what seems to get the most attention, and that's what seems to be the most onerous for districts. So what we want is a meaningful assessment system that does two things. It gives us meaningful information about the health of our students and meaningful information about the health of our education system. And I think what's happened over the last several years is that we have not had a lot, we've had a lot of conversations about assessment, and we've talked a lot about the issues in assessment, but we haven't had a lot of conversations together about coordinating that meaningful assessment. So I hope over the next 4 years that we can begin having some of those conversations together about a meaningful assessment system. If you're following our legislature, you know that there's a bill that is moving through to decrease, or excuse eliminate really, the SAWS test, the writing test. I happen to support that legislation because I think we can do a great job of assessing writing locally and reporting calibrated results so that we can see that our students are doing well from school to school, from district to district. That's one way that we can help to reduce the onerous assessment load. In our accountability bill, we are working hard on making suggestions to our legislature that would reduce the amount of standardized testing. Now, in terms of the 15-16 assessment, again, if you're following the Select Accountability Committee work, you know that we have some big decisions to make. Rather than a state superintendent say, I like this test over this test over this test, what we will do at WDE is set up a great process through a request for proposals to make sure that we get the very best test for Wyoming students. Now, I can kind of pontificate and tell you that there are definitely some tests, some standardized tests that we would prefer over others. We make sure that we have a test that we can share across states and that we can make sure our students are ready for that next step. Make sure that they are able to compete at that next level, whether that's higher education, workforce, whether it's in Wyoming, out of Wyoming, across the globe. We want to make sure that we have an assessment so that we can compare our students, but we also want to make sure a test that is lean and, again, checks the health of our students and finally, we want to make sure that we have timely results. And we can do that in a number of ways that we are able to guarantee that for you all in the school districts so that you can begin to look at standardized tests as a way of not only driving instruction in your classroom, but again, checking that health of the students across the district, across your across the state, and movements there too. So the next question could play a role in streamlining the professional conferences around the state. And this again is from James. Montana has a good model that makes it so teachers can attend, and it is built in all statewide calendars, so teachers are not removed from class time. I think that that is one of many opportunities, James, that we have before us in Wyoming. And, and Carrie may want to weigh in on this, but I happen to think that we have, and I'm kind of looking over the top of my laptop saying that we have the ability, capability, and expertise at WDE to make that happen. What we're missing right now is an infrastructure to make that happen. So, I can who is committed to making it less incumbent on our teachers to find us and more incumbent on us to find you through technology, that you can see something like this in the future. And if if Carrie is completely disagreeing with me, which I don't see that he is, he's saying no. He's probably maybe even doing a happy dance in the corner of the room saying, this is what we want to do in Wyoming.
Yeah, that's right. Where's the applause button?
All right. So there aren't any other questions, and I feel silly for kind of continuing on, but I am going to and talk to you a little bit about okay, thank goodness, there's a question. You seem like such a positive person. What's been your experience with the legislature so far? Great question. Thanks, Carrie. So my experience with the legislature so far is this. I have been out of the classroom for, again, going on 9 years, and I have been working with our legislature every session and every interim since then. I have a positive relationship built with every legislator. I kind of giggled when I spoke to the caucus right before the session started, and I said, okay, I'm in a room of 90 people from Wyoming, and I'm not related to any of you, which rarely happens. And so I am friends with some of them outside of the legislature, but by and far I consider most of them colleagues, and I can tell you that they are not only committed to keeping Wyoming education well funded, but they are committed to making excellent decisions and on allowing the new superintendent of public instruction and our administration and the Department of Education, they're committed to letting us take the reins in terms of facilitating a vision for education. So it's been a little surreal and a little bit weird to hear my name come up on during a debate on the floor of the legislature. That's never happened until this year. I've been quietly working behind the scenes, and it's really neat to see that impact that we're having. And I say we because it's not me. I just sort of get to be the talking head. But it's really a year of campaigning and talking to educators from across the state, talking to legislators, talking to parents, talking to citizens, and really trying to move Wyoming education in a direction that works for all of us and that is a value add most of all to students. So so far it's been great. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing to disagree and have rigorous debate, or sometimes to agree and have rigorous debate. And at the end of the day, we have better outcomes as a result. And truly, that is why I was ever interested in running for public office, because I just so honor and respect that process and that privilege of being able to have those public debates and public disagreements that lead to better outcomes. So Carrie asks, talk about your plans to restore relationships with districts and to make the WDE a resource for them again. Well, let me say that this goes beyond school districts. When I came into this, and by the way, I consider a campaign about a year-long job interview, and by far the longest job interview I've ever had. Again, it's an honor to be here, but I came into office thinking that I knew I would be serving on about 12 to 15 boards, commissions, and task forces. But I knew realistically that was maybe more like 20. So as we started kind of doing an inventory of all the boards, commissions, committees, and task forces that the Wyoming Department of Education, not just me, but our whole department is expected to serve on, we stopped at 93. That's where we are right now. 93 boards, commissions, committees, and task forces that the WDE either has been invited to or is expected to serve on. And, that's really overwhelming, first of all, because that's 93 tables that we're asked to sit at and give our input. But I also look at that as what a great opportunity to build partnerships with 93 or more very diverse entities that all want what's best for Wyoming students. So we take that very seriously, and again, I won't be staffing all of those. And in fact, I would venture to say that almost every single person at the Department of Education will serve on one or more committee, task force, board, advisory group, etc. But it does give us an opportunity to renew relationships. I can't tell you the number of times over the last 4 weeks that I've heard we haven't had Department of Education representation for a number of years, and we really want your voice at the table. And that's an honor, and we need to embrace that and be part of that. With respect to school districts, I again am honored to say that I think I have some street cred out there. I spent 10 years in Wyoming classrooms. I spent another 5 or so years working with the Department of Education and privately consulting on literacy, and I know a lot of educators, and I think I've got credibility and continue to have credibility with educators across the state, and I'm honored to take that into this office and be able to call up a colleague, you know, and that it's not weird for the state superintendent to call a colleague from around the state or call a former teaching partner and say, what do you think about this? And I'll continue to do that because you all know what's going on every day, and you are our very best resource. So instead of you kind of feeling like you have to do everything for the Department of Education and meet requirements and be compliant, we really want to turn that paradigm around. And of course you still have to be compliant and meet those requirements, but we want to serve as a resource for you. And that just comes from building those partnerships, from renewing those relationships, and I think we're well on our way. Our transition cabinet was comprised of 2 former school superintendents and 1 current curriculum director, and boy did I listen for 2 days straight strategic planning. I listened to those folks. Our leadership tier, we pulled the best, well, I shouldn't say, some of you are the best and brightest as well, but we did pull some shining stars from school districts to come and help us, and they again have that street cred out there to make a difference. Department of Education staff, every day I hear your staff is great, they're in the districts, they are supporting you to the best of their ability, and we hope only to enhance that. Next question from Ed Olson. Our border districts have made close connections into the adjacent states. What kind of opportunities do you expect to explore to strengthen those connections at the state educational level or a state educational leadership level? So you are absolutely right, and I see that unfold on Sunday nights with WyoEd Chat and in a number of other places. We have you know, an unprecedented access to technology and this opportunity to really collaborate not only within our state and with who's in front of us and in our schools, but across states, across the nation, across the world. And technology is a key to that. But you know, I also take responsibility for that as well. There are 50 state schools chiefs, and we, in many ways, share you know, these lofty goals for increasing collaboration and increasing communication opportunities. And so I intend to leverage you know, at the very highest level in school governance, leverage what other states are doing, leverage opportunities to connect with other states, and bring that back to the Department of Education, not only in terms of ideas, but in terms of contacts and networks. So thank you, and you know, again, you have that champion for not only education, but those networking opportunities. Okay, are we getting close?
So we have hit 4:45. We got some great questions from the audience. Thank you so much, Superintendent Balow. This has been a great event. I want to just wrap this up and thank you all and let you know that I am at the University of Wyoming, but I am also the leader of the Google Educators group for High Plains. You can look us up on Google+, connect with other educators and some of the folks here at the WDE. Look for more events just like this coming up in the coming months, and don't forget those Sunday night WyoEd chats on Twitter. It's a great way to connect with educators around the state. With that, we are sorry we could not answer all the questions, but again, we will have events in the future. Thank you and have a great weekend.